This Tampa Bay Bucs team preview edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Circus Sports. Circus Sports is giving away $14 million this NFL season. Sign up in Vegas and play from anywhere. Get all the info over at circusports.com. We're also brought to you by our Patreon. Score exclusive perks and content available only to our patrons at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon.
Hey, this is LeGarrette Blunt, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Cox.
He's one of those guys who will get penetration.
Welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, second the money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. What's happening, Kramer?
Dog.
Well, it feels like we were just in here talking football.
We were, Ryan.
It's happening fast.
Two-a-days are starting. NFL team previews. So awesome. Just getting jacked for football.
I thought you were going to let it play a little bit.
All right. Enjoy the sounds of the National Football League. Just finished up our Arizona Cardinals team preview. Now we're on to the Tampa Bay Bucs. Oh man, just so great. Tampa Bay Bucs, Ryan. Let's talk about them. Little year in review, 2022, 8-10 straight up. Of course, 8-9 in the regular season. Then they got worked by the Cowboys in the playoffs. That wasn't that fun. They were one of the worst teams against the spread last year. 4-13-1. Because people, I was probably guilty of it myself at times, go like, oh, come on. They got Brady. They got all this talent to figure it out. Brady did kind of pull some wins out of his ass throughout the season. Their win total was 11.5. They went way under. We were both on the under, although we had them. I think I had them just under. You had them 10-7. So, you know, disappointing season, but we were right as far as the win total. DVOA rank 17, so not horrible. Offense was 16. Defense was 13th ranked DVOA. Their estimated wins pretty close to what they got, 7.4. Pythag wins 7.1.
A lot of people gave the Vikings shit for not being a good team. They won 13, make the playoffs, embarrassing. Their point different. This Bucs team made the playoffs with a losing record and a negative 45 point difference. So I don't know why did the Vikings catch all the slack?
I think the Vikings were crazier because they had, you know, historic comebacks in there. The historic comeback against the Colts, and then that crazy Bills game, which got them got their record up to what 13-4 in the regular season.
But what do you think's more rare? Like in a slightly above average team getting the coin to fall the right way, or making the playoffs as an 8-win team? Like that winning, like we don't see the under 500 playoff team very often, and they always get the home games. So we have to discuss: should we allow this to happen? Should we abolish
we
this?
We need to change things. These 8-9 teams get in the playoffs. Although sometimes they kind of shock the world. I think Seattle beast mode. That was one of those games. I like it when a team under 500 gets into the playoffs. Of course, Andrew Robb and his Commanders repping that 2020 NFC East championship. They got in at 7-9. I think it's kind of funny and create some interesting conversations betting wise. I don't think we should get rid of it.
No, of course not.
Yeah,
we structure everything is structured. It was more perfect when it was all even numbers, but it's still structured in a perfect way. We don't need why change perfection? We don't need to all of a sudden start having palm trees be Christmas trees. Pine trees work just fine. Let's not overthink it. I will say one last thing. I'll say
yes.
When you look back at this team last year, it does appear that in spite of all the injuries and everything else, like Brady still did carry this team, dragged them through the mud in some cases. I think even if you dive into his numbers, he was much better in the fourth quarter than the first through third.
Well, and obviously the transition from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, or John Wolford of Wall Street is the big.
I do have that jotted down.
Big notes. Let's see what else. They brought in Baker, obviously Chase Edmonds, Matt Fleer, guard, defensive tackle here. You got a new kicker. Look out there. Draft picks are pretty interesting. Kalijah Cansey. We'll talk.
We love him.
We'll talk more about him, but I think he could really shake things up. And then a lot of, they didn't even draft a skill position player because they have Chris Godwin, they have Mike Evans, they have Kate Otten going into his second year.
Payne Durham is a great name.
Yes, it does sound like a minor league pitcher. Obviously, let's see, who do they
or some sort of disease that happens when you don't leave the house enough. Dealing with a little Payne Durham.
What do we got? Obviously Brady, Leonard Fournette, Julio's gone. Although I don't know if he was that key of a departure. Sean Murphy Bunting, he was a pretty good.
I will say I
cornerback.
I sourced a lot of the like in and out player movement stuff from our guy Walter Football.
Okay.
And I love some of the ones that are clearly like a touch off, like the Julio Jones one. Like,
yes.
is that really? He left early? He's already been. It would be like putting Calvin Ridley on. A little bit like putting Calvin Ridley.
Yeah,
on.
I didn't really. Shaq Mason, I do think, is a pretty decent departure there.
Absolutely.
And then obviously Kalijah Cansey, we're all in. All right, before we get to 20, or do you have anything else for the 2020 review, Ryan? To me, it was just kind of hanging on by a thread with Brady. I guess I'll throw this nugget out here now. A quote I got. This is from a New Orleans Saints scout, so obviously knows the division, knows it well. This is him saying for Tom Brady, quote, "He was an easy guy to prepare for. I just think they'll be able to do more with Baker Mayfield. To be honest, he's just younger and tougher right now. Brady was good, but Brady was checked out." I'll say this: the narrative
is that from Welcome to UAB.
It does sound like it was written by a Saints fan. The narrative around Brady, going into the season, they lost Jensen, their offensive lineman, and it was like, oh well, is this going to matter? Is it not going to matter? Brady obviously lead the league in like quickest time of release and all that stuff. He can get the ball out really quick, but I do think there is something to the fact that he didn't let stuff develop. He didn't push the ball downfield at all. Like he didn't. I mean, some of it was maybe
a hell of a spin.
Some of it was maybe he didn't have time, but he did maybe rush the
offensive line sucked, and Brady happens to be the best evolver to his offense in the history. We'll call him Sis Tom.
Tougher than Brady was a real personal shot.
That's where the take lost me, because it seemed to get personal at that point. So I have some data on exactly what you're talking about. 16% of his attempts were over 3 seconds in the pocket. Only 16%. For reference, Baker 47% last year. He held the ball for 3 seconds or more. 30% the year before in 2021, he held the ball for 3 seconds or more. Then you look at the sack rates. Tom Brady last year, if you look at all quarterbacks' sack rates over the last 2 seasons, 2022 Tom Brady is number 1, 2.9%. 2021 Tom Brady is number 2, 3%. You know where Baker Mayfield's on this list? 77th and 78th. 9.7% last year, 9.4% the year before. When you combine those two elements, right? Likes to hold the ball, takes a lot of sacks. The previous quarterback was getting rid of the ball early. So I love your spin on it. Like, yeah, they weren't letting Mike, Johnny Manziel held the ball a lot at Texas A&M, and Mike Evans ran down the football field nicely. I like the take,
but I think I think their offensive line is going to be noticeably better than it was last year. They're getting Jensen back. They're moving Tristan Wirfs, who's really good, from right tackle to left tackle, assuming that goes well.
That's not nothing. Like I
know,
I know he's a great player, but
I think their offensive line could be pretty good. And I think
second best tackle from that draft.
Yeah, I think having a good offensive line is essential if you're going to give Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask a chance.
So my take on that, and I didn't expect us to have an offensive line debate. My take on that is I think Tom Brady also elevates the performance of the offensive line because how quick he can get the ball out. So it's a chicken or the egg argument, but I'd be more willing to bet that Tom Brady, like the mental regression felt by going from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield or a young Kyle Trask from the offensive line perspective. I think even if they get better, they can still take a step back.
Yeah, I guess overall, I think they're a better offensive line. But to your point,
Tom Brady
does make you make your offensive line.
If anything, even as an old guy, like that's where he really was. His strength still lied. He knew where the pressure was coming. He knew where to go. He knew how to get the ball out quickly. And I think if you to expect that Baker won't have to do any of that,
but
is silly.
I would say the positive is. And we haven't seen Kyle Trask to me is a complete unknown, right? Like we have no idea.
We called him Kyle Trash in college.
It does kind of work. I thought he had some moments.
Sean, he was in the building. He learned how to win from Tom Brady.
I guess the thing about Baker is good creating play. Like when Baker has been okay, it's been creating plays off schedule, something Tom Brady couldn't do or never did. So maybe there are like busted plays where Godwin or Mike Evans are getting down the field that he's able to pull something out that Brady didn't.
You know,
I'm not going to say Baker is better than Brady, but
no,
I think there's
not.
some opportunities that they weren't able to take advantage of.
Although I would watch 80 for Baker. 80 for I'd say this. You know who else was good off schedule? Tim Tebow. And I just keep seeing that picture of him throwing that fluttery.
Put Tim Tebow in this team.
Look, I would say that just the last thing I'll say, because it is worth noting, we discussed it with the Cardinals and the cap situation. Tampa actually has the most dead cap in the league, but they still were signing veterans in the offseason and keeping guys as if they're trying to win now. So a little bit confusing. They do have a very like rookie loaded roster, but they have the lowest active spending. So the realistic chances they can win games doesn't seem to marry the way they approach the offseason, which always creates that world that they have to be undervalued because there's a bunch of grown ass men and a whole bunch of rookies that want to be grown ass men one day playing hard, I think. And then Sean, before we get to the schedule, I have
a shit ton of stuff to get to, and we also shout out Circus Sports.
That's where you were trying to get.
Circa Millions and the Circus Survivor are back. $14 million in guaranteed prizes up for grabs. We're going to be out signing up for the Circus Survivor contest, football weekend, aka August 24th to 26th. Personally inviting everyone listening to this podcast, come out with us, have a beer, have a drink with us, with Derek. It's a great hang, great excuse to go out to Las Vegas. And again, sign up in Vegas, play from anywhere. You basically hire a proxy guy to put in your picks. We can help you out with that. The contests are so much fun. Recommend getting in both of them. It's, you and a couple buddies can join and play together as a group. If you're in like a group chat, gambling group chat, this is the perfect way. It's like you and 4 other guys come together. One, get that weekend in Vegas before the season starts, and then 2, maybe each pick a game, and it's a fun way to possibly win a shit ton of prizes. $14 million up for grabs. Circusports.com for all the details. The ton of notes I want to get to, Ryan, before we start walking through the schedule. I mean, first off, I think one thing besides the questions at quarterback, and obviously that's a huge question for this team. Todd Bowles as a head coach overall, 34-50, 26-41 without that Tom Brady.
Good coordinator, bad head coach. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
certainly a ton of those vibes. 5 seasons, only one with a winning record. His first year with the Jets, if you remember, that was like that Fitzmagic kind of year.
I feel like he's never been given the Tom Brady year, I guess, but he's always kind of been into a situation that was a little dirty.
Well, and it's also the Jets. So again, I think he's more a coordinator than a head coach.
But we like him. Remember the things he said in the media?
Yeah, I also think that means their defense is going to be pretty good.
Do you remember when he was asked about to comment on a fellow coach because he was also black?
Oh yeah,
we're all football coaches. What the fuck you asking me that for? I mean, he seems like just a dude. And I do like I think I feel like we have maybe last year too. I even tried to convince you that we should bet on him to win Coach of the Year. To which you said that's a horrible idea.
He is an interesting dark horse candidate, especially this year. I think my angle against him last year was that you still had Tom Brady. So if the team was good,
it's true.
Brady was going to get all the praise. Now, if this team makes the playoffs, I think he's certainly an interesting coach of the year candidate because he's going to get all the praise for either getting a playoff season out of Kyle Trask, Baker Mayfield, or even John Wolford. So I think he would get a ton of praise and kind of an interesting. He is the longest odds.
And I think, while defense does tend to sway year to year, he does like that is where the continuity lies on this team. We mentioned Clancy earlier, like that remember, I know another dude that played defensive line at Pitt, Sean, that was a little undersized guy by the name of Aaron Donald, Vita Vea in the middle. I mean, we expect this defense to be ferocious. They bring back Larry Foote and Casey Rogers as the co-defensive coordinators. Always like a good co-defensive coordinator situation. Obviously, Todd Bowles still involved in the defense. They blitz that's his DNA. But you know who they brought in as offensive coordinator? Sean?
Yeah, you got it right here. Dave Canales, previously the Seattle quarterback coach last year with Geno getting. I mean,
Baker Geno parallels.
Well, they're certainly. I mean, don't you think they're similar in that they were quarterbacks who had a bunch of hype coming in, limited amount of success. Dave Canales gets his hands on him. Geno, we saw a nice breakout season. He fell apart late.
I was gonna say it was for a half at least.
And in general, this team kind of feels similar to Seattle in general overall, where they had a bunch of veterans on there. They had DK Metcalf, they had Tyler Lockett. They had previously they had drafted Kenneth Walker, so they had some skill position players. Everyone wrote them off because Geno Smith was their quarterback. Everyone had them,
and Geno forgot to write back.
So fewest amount of wins. Everyone was kind of.
What was their win total last year? Do you remember?
It was 5.5.
5.5.
And I had the over and cashed that. I didn't think they would be quite a playoff team.
No,
but I think their floor last year was a lot of signs that they weren't blowing it up. A lot of signs they weren't tanking it.
Yep.
There was talk, oh, hey, Pete Carroll should tank it. He's not going to be anything without Russell Wilson. Pete Carroll, I think, is a very good coach. So I think they're similar. Obviously, the difference is
that's
that
a massive.
coach,
that to me, that's a massive difference. And I don't. The other thing I'll say is,
and no Byron Leftwich, who I think we can both agree, not a great play caller. Now, maybe how much of that was Brady, how much was his influence, but Byron Leftwich, if you talk to anyone tied to the Tampa Bay Bucs or likes the Bucs, they hated Byron Leftwich.
It was a failed Bruce Arians experiment, who, by the way, still a senior football consultant with the organization. He's off doing dirty work.
Bruce Arians
doing dirty work for the team.
What is he doing for this team? I have no idea. There must have been some weird agreement where, Brady wanted him fired.
The owner likes him.
Well, it was probably just like they didn't want to buy out his contract completely. They liked having him around, so they gave him some bullshit job to kind of hang.
There was a picture of him with some of the Tampa brass at whatever latest like ownership meeting where he was like playing golf or something. It does seem like he's maybe slowly turning into the mascot. We don't have like just get him in a pirate outfit and he becomes the Buccaneer. Look, he also he went hard vouching for Baker this offseason, which seemed interesting at the time at the least.
I mean, if Bruce Arians was this head coach, this to me would be a smash on the over. So it's weird because we almost have to figure out like how involved is he? What is he doing here? By the way, chat is lit. YouTube.com/sports gambling podcast. Smash! That subscribe button. Hop in live. What do you got? ZD Mills checking in. Say what's up, fellas. We got Serial asking, are they going to run the ball more? That's kind of interesting. I think they
can't get worse than they were last year.
They were really bad running the ball. I think their offensive line maybe a little bit better. And I do think if you are going to try to succeed with Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, you have to set it up with some play action. Now, is Rashad White that guy? I don't know.
Very polarizing player in the fantasy nerd community. Some are like, well, this guy's going to have a ton of carries. He himself said he was going to have a ton of work, or he himself said, well, hold that. I might not be getting all the work. I think the fantasy community came around full circle. They pointed out that he was horribly inefficient last year. But as you point out, the offensive line was horrible. A lot of times when shit's getting blown up in the backfield, it's really hard to measure running backs.
Yeah.
I will say we keep saying the offensive line is getting better. To me, it's purely just you get your center back and that changes everything.
No, Jensen was huge. Now he was again. he's back, but I think I'm projecting he's going to be pretty healthy just because he was lost like preseason. So he's gotten a full full year to recover. So I think he would be pretty good. And then, second round pick Luke Godkey again is going to be taking over right tackle, who again, second round pick, should be pretty good. But again, obviously a lot of questions there if he's going to be your starting right tackle.
No. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, we didn't really talk about a ton of their like luck last year or lack of it, depending on how you look at it. I don't think it matters because it was mostly like everything good that happened to them was Tom Brady related. Like fourth quarter wins when they had a below 50% win probability. Again, they lost a lot of players to injury, so in theory that should regress. But
yeah, no, injury luck, fumble luck, field goal luck, all bad for them.
But I do think there's some of this is that because of the dead cap situation, because of the relative, like they're shallow in the roster, I guess it becomes harder to deal with injuries. So they might not need to get as injured, and they can still really feel it if it's key positions.
As far as betting game to game, Baker Mayfield, Ryan, 15-25 against the spread last 40 games, worst in the NFL. Getting back to Byron Leftwich and coaching in general, this Bucs team, if you remember, there were like moments last year where Todd Bowles, hopefully they can get him an analytics sheet or some kid playing.
I don't do analytics.
No team punted more often in one score games and on 4th and 2 or less than Tampa 16 times.
Well, he trusts his defense, Sean.
Well, and I think some of that was, and I think he even said it, some of that was having Tom Brady, where you go like that comeback, that crazy comeback against the Rams, where in the back of your head, you're going, all right, we got a good defense.
We just need the possession, one possession.
Yeah. We just need to get Brady the ball back. I wonder if he's going to be more aggressive, just out of the idea of like, hey, Baker, Kyle Trask, Wolford, they need extra attempts at getting this first down.
I like how you are just incessantly making sure that he's mentioned.
Do you think? I mean, John Wolford starting games for this Bucs team? I don't think is completely off the table.
I think if there's going to be a team that's going to add a quarterback in camp that's meaningful, it's going to be the Bucs. How did they not sign the USFL kid?
Kyle Magoo, Alex Magoo. What about Ryan there and Joel the Don asking in the chat? Are we just assuming Baker is going to get the job week 1, or do you think?
No.
Like, what if you had to set the odds right now? What do you? It does seem like it's a foregone conclusion reading these previews that it's Baker, but I
really.
I think most places are projecting Baker Mayfield the starter.
Oh,
I don't know if I totally
projecting,
agree with
but I've also read a lot of the beat reporters suggesting that it's definitely going to be a competition, which, good or bad, right? Like splitting the reps is not always the best thing, but competition probably is the best thing. I think
steel sharpens steel.
I think we're like this is one of the training camps that you circle and you just wait for that day where it's like none of the quarterbacks look good.
Yeah.
Ball was hitting the ground a lot.
Well, and they're an interesting team.
But my projection would be, this is almost like you treat Kyle Trask like a rookie. You let Baker go out there, and maybe Baker can bring back the old Baker, or maybe he sucks and he takes the shrapnel early in the year.
Yeah, and
then they roll it into a Kyle Trask or a Wolford of Wall Street.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
what's the street in Tampa? We need to rename this for.
I would make right now. I would say Baker's like a -175 favorite, and then I think Kyle Trask, if he lights it up in training camp, I think he does have a pretty decent chance of starting. Like I think there'll be.
We'll see how much power Bruce Arians has.
And supposedly he looked. He was like well graded in preseason according to PFF.
So
again, what does that mean? Who knows? But
I'm going to give you a real quick Formula One tangent. So as you know, I've mildly gotten into Formula One. Red Bull Racing, who's one of the top team now. they have this consultant, this motorsport consultant, Helmut Marko. He looks like in a Bond villain, and he's always there. He makes all the decisions, but he's not an unofficial title, just a consultant. I think that's Bruce Arians. And if Bruce Arians is pulling the strings, Baker's probably the starter.
Yeah,
by a million.
Last before we talk schedule here, they are bringing back the creamsicle jerseys. I feel like that's worth one win right there.
Why is everyone acting like this is a good thing? Like we all like it because it reminds us of how bad they were. Bags over the heads. I don't think this is.
They were a fire jersey though. Like if they played in those jerseys and played well,
that's just what shit looked like back then. Like when I think of 70s or 8, whatever that is, like that's the coloring. I think they didn't have all the colors back.
See,
then.
I'm thinking of Tecmo Super Bowl, and you're right. They weren't good then. But
is that a hot take that I think those jerseys are trash?
That's very hot, right?
Like I appreciate the look of them in like
if Colby hears you say this, he's gonna attack you.
Shout out to our old roommate Cornell, but to me it's like cool in a Cornell kind of way, like because it's loud and slightly obnoxious, and you're gonna draw eyes to you. And it's meant to be like that though. It's a cool jersey. Like it's that. Like I understand why the Colts is a trash jersey.
I don't. But the Colts.
I like the idea of bringing a retro jersey back. I'm just saying they didn't have all the colors back then, or it would have been cooler back then. And I don't think it's a good thing because that's when they didn't win a game. Like
that's
they're
true.
Commemorating now.
It is weird.
Burn
to bring
those
back.
jerseys forever. If the Eagles had a season where they didn't win a game, you think they'd ever wear those jerseys again?
If they were the Kelly Greens, we might have to.
No, the entire city would burn them. It's a superstitious place, Sean. All right.
Well, one division note before we get started. They have 10 between the division and the AFC South. They're playing 10 games, and obviously playing one team that they're playing in those 10 games is in the top 10 of Super Bowl odds. So I think there's a ton.
That's a good nugget.
I think there are a ton of winnable games on this schedule.
But they're not favored once.
They're not favored once.
Not according to the data that our guy pulled as of whenever a day ago.
That is crazy.
There's some close ones. Real quick, let me pile on your schedule nugget because 14 of their 17 games they play the NFC South, AFC South, and NFC North. I'm just saying, not a lot of good teams in those divisions.
No.
Again, I kind of walked into both of these previews with opposite opinions, and the research kind of took me more towards the middle. All right.
Before we get to that, Ryan, of course, make sure, have you guys done your part in the war against corporate gambling? That's right. We now have the Sports Gambling Podcast Patreon. It's pretty sweet. We're going to be doing a monthly SGP Stories podcast, ad-free, uncensored. There's also going to be weekly DFS pick'em contests that will have prizes that are completely free to enter for just the Patreons. We also have a exclusive merch available that's only going to be going to the Patreon. So a lot of fun bonus stuff and all our pick sheets. So like all the spreadsheets that Ryan pours over here. All those, and also our preview sheets that have all these stats and a lot of the trends and the schedule with the breakdown, all those sheets, all the college football future episodes we did with all our picks there, all in one convenient place there for the Patreons. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon.
What do you think of a tag like great for the lazy motherfucker who doesn't want to listen to the show?
Oh wow, okay.
I mean, not as a bad thing. Like I'm like a friendly, like, hey, you're being a real motherfucker right now. They are some beautiful spreadsheets. I am going to sell. That's one thing I will tout. We made it through the entire preview without again. This is like our go-to move. We barely mention the odds ever, but I'll put them up on the screen.
No, I think this is a good time to mention the odds.
I feel like we always it becomes inconsistent. Win total. This stood out to me a little bit. Because we're in team 2 and we've gone from 4.5 up to
6.5
to 6.5. A little plus juice on the over, plus 116 to the over, minus 140 to the under. Make playoffs plus 360. Miss minus 500. Division 8-1. Conference 40-1. Super Bowl 75-1. Real quick before we walk through the schedule, I because the make playoff odds just reminded me of Carlton Davis, which we'll link to this in the post, but there's a full article on Carlton Davis and how he's not ready to, he's not convinced that this is a bad team. He thinks that they're being disrespected. And let's see right here. We're about to do it to him. Davis says anyone who feels we've lost Tom and lost something is going to be in for a rude awakening. A rude awakening. Tom was blah 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 blah. Tom was a great addition for us, but obviously it's a team sport. Obviously you need components to be successful. We still have those components, and I'm only getting better. Talking about himself. Quote what when asked what rude awakening meant, we're gonna wreck shit. Interceptions, turnovers, plays will be made. I will say plays will be made.
But listen to this, you know, to your point, like listen to the defense. I mean, you still have Devin White, you still have Levante Davis, you still have Shaq Barrett, you still have Kalijah, we're high on Kalijah Cansey, Vita Vea up front.
Maui's still there.
Antoine Winfield Jr. Like they have a pretty solid defensive roster. And I think again, getting back to the coaching situation, I think they are well coached on the defensive side.
Yeah. He went on to say, and our fucking division is worse than it was before.
Wait, he said that?
Yeah.
Normally, guys, that's stuff like we say about the division. Rarely do you say like our division fucking sucks.
So we run through the division, get to the playoffs, run through the playoffs, and it's Super Bowl. He also in the same article said, people who are in jail now who killed people, I grew up with them, played with them, broke bread with them, hung out with them, sweated with them, became a blood brother with them. Through grinding in football. So going through shit, being around shit, a lot of shit don't phase you. This sounds like a motherfucker that can motivate a locker room.
I'm ready to run through a brick wall. All right, let's talk schedule.
All right, let's do it. Whew. All right. First up, first 4 on the road in the spaceship at Minnesota, week 1.
Tough place to play.
Big number.
Yeah,
7.5. We'll have to evaluate that. Getting through the quarterback's experience. I will say I'm not falling in love with Kirk Cousins like everyone else. Week 2, the Bears are catching 1.5, or the Bucs will be catching 1.5 from the Bears at home. Eagles will be favored as well at Saints before an early bye week. I don't know if that's a good thing. It might be the right time to swap quarterbacks if it's not working out. We did mention the relative ease in the schedule, at least the pairings of 14 of those 17 games. Of course, the other 3 are versus the Eagles, the Niners, and the Bills.
Yeah, they did win the division. So obviously, that
first place schedule. Look, I think, when I was looking at last team to get a win, and I was like trying to exercise my thought around Tampa, I think on one side of the coin, it's fair to say, well, this team is operating like they're trying to win games now.
Yeah.
How quick does that become a problem when the vets are like, fuck it, when things start melting down? I do think I'm intrigued by the week 1 game from a point spreads perspective. And obviously we like fading teams coming to Florida early. So maybe I give one there against Chicago.
The Vikings game.
You tell me Tampa's defense couldn't fuck up Justin Fields real bad.
Yeah, no, especially
I'm
again
in on
that September afternoon heat. That's going to be brutal. The Bears will probably be in their black jerseys, where you talk. The Bucs will be in the whites.
Yep.
Now at Minnesota, that's interesting. This 7.5 feels really high. I know Minnesota is a good team at home, but
I'll say 1.
As far as like big underdog upsets week 1. So I think they have like they have a chance against the Vikings. They have a good shot against the Bears. I wouldn't make them a dog actually in that game. Eagles at home in prime time. I don't think they have a chance to win that outright. And then at Saints is interesting because
Well, it's a big rivalry.
Well, and the Saints had always kind of owned Brady in particular, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to transfer over.
They only own Brady, not Baker.
Not Baker. Or
Baker's a different animal. Yeah, I mean, I certainly I'll put me down for one. I think I think 2 would be a pretty aggressive.
Chad is seemingly fading. Earl James saying massive under. Mike Stacks has them going 4-13.
I think this is where if this graphic we were looking at right here was our win distribution, where we could talk about range of outcomes. I do think that because of the shallowness of the roster, the range of outcomes could lead to that. A lot of things can happen that will lead to them being bad. We talked about the dead cap. They're only like 1/3 of their money is going to nowhere. Like they're still paying Julio Jones. They're still paying guys
2-2, Ryan.
Oh my
2-2.
All right. So after the bye, again, early bye. Don't know if it's good. They have the Lions at home, Falcons at home, at Bills, at Texans.
Ooh.
See,
I mean, those are some winnable games.
That's a tough road trip. They go to Buffalo and then to Houston.
Yeah, I guess that's a lot of flying, but I do like them at home against the Falcons. I do like them at home against the Lions. Anytime you can get 2 dome teams, and it's not super hot, but it'd still be relatively warm. And I think most of their games are going to be in that 10 a.m. slot. Not a lot of primetime game. Oh, actually, worth noting that Buffalo one is on Thursday night, so that one you can just grade a loss. But then you'll have extra rest. You'll be playing on extra rest when you go to play the Texans. So I think that helps. I'm going to go 2-2 here again. I think they can win 2 of these games, Ryan.
Yeah, it should have been noted. The Philly game is Monday Night Football that we were discussing in the first section, and the Buffalo game is Thursday night. Those are their only 2 primetime games. So again, we're seeing the correlation win total and disinteresting quarterback play gets you off TV. I think I'll go 1-3 again. Are you 2-2 again?
Yes.
Jesus, you're really high on this team.
I just think that the NFC South. My take on the NFC South and the AFC South are they're more wide open than people think, and the fact that you're just gonna pencil in the Saints, or I know all the sharp communities all over the Falcons. I mean, Desmond Ridder in my mind should not be a road favorite against this Tampa Bay Bucs defense. So I think there's some spots where they could surprise some people.
Next 4. Titans at Niners, at Colts, Panthers. I mean, again, I do. I think Todd Bowles, where Todd Bowles does have a nice advantage here, is he gets 2 younger quarterbacks, 2 games apiece. Then you look at the quarterbacks in the South. You look at Jordan Love in the North. You look at Justin Fields in the North. There are definitely I think his scheme can work. I don't know what are we doing here?
See, I like the Titans, so I don't know. It's tough for me to get to 2 wins here.
Yeah. I mean, this is
I'll go 1-3.
This is where you go 1-3.
Because
so they beat the Panthers.
Tough.
Right? I mean,
I think they probably just split between the Panthers and Colts.
Tennessee. This is a sandwich spot for Tennessee between at Pittsburgh. This is actually the middle game of a 3-game road stretch for Tennessee. Very losable. I actually give me 2-2 here.
Really? Okay.
I think the Colts game is going to be winnable too. Actually, give me 3-1 here.
Whoa. All right. You're talking me. If you're going 3-1, I got to go 2-2.
Look, you got 2 rookie. I think the Titans in a horrible scheduling spot. Again, middle game of a 3-game road stretch. We don't know who the Niners quarterback is, but let's just say that's a loss. And then you have rookie quarterback or Gardner Minshew and rookie quarterback or Andy Dalton.
Lube Gaming saying you're making this harder than it should be. It's Baker. He'll maybe get 3 to 5 wins at most.
Can I tell you? I
guess I don't think Baker's going to play all 17 games, which makes this a tough handicap.
I think that I believe a little bit that Kyle Trask learned how to win. I believe a little bit.
I'm not completely out on Kyle Trask, and the fact that they didn't bring in some cheap vet. Well, I guess maybe that's what you would say Baker is. I'm quietly optimistic about this team.
Bruce Arians' offensive system was all about no fucks given.
Yeah,
Baker kind of represents that, and they have the guns. They literally have. They definitely have the best receiving core in the division. Is that a hot take?
I
I don't think it is.
No, well,
I don't think it is
in the division. Yeah, Bills Mafia DJ. I'm pointing out they do have, 4 road games in 5 weeks. As we tee up this last section, that is a brutal stretch. But to your point, like the ceiling on, or the floor on this team is really low. Like if guys are not buying in, if they're hitting a wall early, if the vets are out, things could really unravel.
Worth noting, it's not just 4. They have 2 stretches of 4 and 5, and it's actually 6 and 8. They go back to back Bills, Texans, back to back Niners, Colts, and then we're about to talk about the next stretch, which is back to back at Falcons, at Packers.
Yeah.
Again, late warm weather team going up into Lambeau.
That Green Bay is going to be tough.
Jacksonville at home, Saints at home, at Panthers to close out the year. Oh boy, I think this is where if things do fall apart, and so maybe my 3-1 is me playing catch up, but I'm going to give them 1.
1 and 3,
1 and 4 down the stretch.
Oh, 1 and 4. You're right. I'll do. Oh man, because I do think they're going to be okay against the Saints. I'm versus the Jaguars. That's interesting. Jags are only getting 3.5. I mean, Ryan, compared to some of these other teams, like, don't you think that number? I mean, you're playing in state. I guess just like for how high the people are on the Jags in market, I'm surprised that's only 3.5. I mean,
you think the Jags should be laying more? Sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying.
I guess I'm surprised the spread is only 3.5. I thought because of how high people are on the Jaguars, the spread would be bigger for that game.
To look ahead spots in New Orleans, you know.
Well, no, I mean, I
think at that point in the season, like if I'm
going to say 2 wins. 2 and 3. 8 and 9. Wow. 8 and 9 for the Tampa Bay Bucs.
That seems aggressive.
I was a little generous. Yeah.
What did I finish with? 6?
6 and 11. So you're on the under.
It's really difficult for me to want to pull the trigger on the over here. Like they're in a log jam with all these other teams at 6.5.
So here's now this sounds crazy, but price.
I'm already laughing. That's how crazy it is.
Price factored in. My favorite bet on the Tampa Bay Bucs is for them to win the division at 8-1, because
not make the playoffs.
No, because I don't like this team as a wild card team. I think they either eke out a 8-9 win season and win the NFC South,
that actually
or
makes
they're
sense.
like 4 wins.
That's probably a fair take for the entire division. Right?
Yeah. Like I like them to win the division at 8-1 because of the price and because of how open.
But Carlton Davis said that if you like them to win the division, why aren't you parlaying that shit into to a Super Bowl?
I don't like them to win the Super Bowl.
The odds don't seem to match, if I'm being honest.
Don't like them to win the conference.
Listen to all the teams sitting on 6.5 for their win total: Tampa Bay, Houston, Washington, Los Angeles Rams, Indianapolis Colts.
So I guess like
only one of those teams do I think decidedly is definitely worse than the Bucs, or better. Sorry, no, worse. Yeah, the Colts are the only team where I'm like, throw them in the bottom. That's about it. And so I don't not to tease any of that, but I think
I keep going back on the Colts and the Texans, who will be in the bottom of the AFC South there, because I don't think it's going to be the Titans.
Yeah, I just think something like this team is they if everyone stays healthy, your version can happen. I think you got to their ceiling. I think you might have had their ceiling case.
I think the 8 or 9 wins. I think the fun way to play them is to win the division, because like even money on over 6.5 wins, I'm going to, because we pick every team here. I'm going to say over. But as far as my favorite bet on the team is just a sprinkle on them to win the division, because I don't like it feels like it's either going to be a 4-win season or
are they an alt-win team? Maybe.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting.
I jotted them down because I think, obviously a lot of people in the chat think they're going to suck.
Yeah.
And if you think they're going to be a 4-win team, I mean, we're sitting at 6.5. So you can take, let me pull it up here. You can take, you can bust it down to 4.5, take under to plus 240.
All right.
If you think they suck, if you think they're going to be good, like Sean, Over 7.
Well, and again, I think they could be. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot like last year, where they're not really good, but they get to 8 and 9, and because the division
plus 225. You want that? That's not good enough.
It's funny. They're the win slider taps out at 10.5. So you
don't need to do that, man.
11-1 at 10.5 on the over. To me, no way. Again, division is the most fun way to play this team. Well, so Ryan, here. What would you do? Would you rather take the over 9.5 wins at plus 800, or for them to win the division at plus 800? For me,
100%. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, those win total sliders are always going to be like, if you're willing to parlay it to that, well, that's good enough to win the division. That's always going to pay better.
Yeah.
Especially for the shit teams. The shit teams always have value in the division because like it's that, like, there's only 4 teams. So the money gets very concentrated pretty easily, especially in a division like this, where it's like the Saints. And then I spoke about the Falcons, but that's neither here nor there. I will say, I think another fun way to play this one, and I know a lot of places put up the division specials, but I think if you like Tampa to kind of surprise people, why not play them to fit, like play them in an exacta? Why not get them in there, or maybe even just a straight 1-2?
Well, Serial was throwing out Tampa Bay, New Orleans 1-2, essentially the exacta box. I think it could go either way, and it pays plus 550. I guess that's also, to me, it's getting a little cute, because then you have to parlay. You know, I don't know. I see the appeal of those, but I'm just keeping it simple with the division.
Cool.
What about Ryan?
Like, say if you liked Atlanta,
yeah,
you could do Atlanta 1, Tampa 2, 13-1.
And is it either position or exact?
Straight. I
one?
can find the either way.
Because I feel like those are tempting. But
that is the exacta price.
Okay, because those are tempting,
actually,
but I feel like you can get kind of boned with some of the division tiebreakers and stuff like that. I do also, and we mentioned in the futures episode, but I do like, and I think you were on it as well, Ryan, Kalijah Cansey, defensive rookie of the year at plus 2,500, 25-1. He's a first round pick, has a chance to be very disruptive down there. The Todd Bowles defense, I think there are good players around him on that front seven. I forget who mentioned in the chat, they are getting older. The defense is aging, so
it's a nice way to put it.
Maybe they do hit the wall, and nothing is going to work out for them. Lube Gaming keeps pointing out Baker has a win total slider.
Yeah, you can get crazy. You can get frisky. I think it goes down to 2.5. All right. What else are you?
So yeah, that's it for me. I mean, again, technically on the over here, 6.5 wins. Kalijah Cansey, defensive rookie of the year, small sprinkle, and then Tampa Bay to win the division is my favorite bet for this team.
Okay. So
what about you, Ryan? You're on the under.
Well, I'm definitely on the under. I'm definitely gonna. I'm 100% taking that Atlanta Tampa exacta.
Atlanta to win, Tampa second.
I'm not high on them, but I do think, I think if they stay healthy, they will 100% kind of be in that purgatory of not being bad.
I guess
definitely not being good.
We'll get to
13-1.
We'll get to it when we talk about the Rams. I think it's just they have a chance for a ceiling outcome, and the price doesn't match, the odds in my mind, right?
So and we need to cut
Tampa Bay.
You sound very smart when you're talking about
Tampa Bay to win the division at 8-1. Ryan, what would the true odds be? Like, what does that mean? 8-1. It has to happen. What? How many?
Like 8.
1 out of 12 times.
Well, so 9-1 would be 10%.
Okay.
So 8-1 would be like 12 and change.
12%. So I think there's a greater, to me, them winning the division, I think it's closer to 25%. I think they have almost an equal shot as some of these other teams in the division. 8-1 feels like a pretty good price.
Yeah. You
run the season 100 times. The Bucs are winning more than 12.5 times.
We need a simulations engine. That's what we need.
We need someone to come up with fake simulations that we will pull data from.
11.1 repeating.
And now another guy. See, the problem is with Baker, his ATS record has cost people so much money. There's a lot of Baker hate. Mike Stacks saying Baker 31-38 record his entire career. He's going to stink.
I'm betting I will be taking them as dogs this year. I think the combination of I think the offense is going to take shots. I think what did Geno in that offense do last year? They played like they had nothing to lose. Yeah. So I do think you want to have some outcomes.
Is he going to wake up feeling dangerous? My answer, yes.
He's in Tampa. I don't know.
Everything's dangerous in Florida. If there's one state where you're going to wake up feeling dangerous, it's Florida.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield for the win.
Yeah, we don't know what does he like the strip clubs or not, because that could be a distraction.
So you got Atlanta, Tampa Bay, exacta. Tampa Bay under 6.5 wins. I think you were on Cansey Rookie of the Year. Or no.
I mean I don't want to end up giving out like a million Rookie of the Years. I definitely think
I didn't remember if you're on.
No. I'll share in that with you. I'll throw that on my list too, because it's definitely. We've talked about it. I've thrown it out there specifically because he's going to be playing next to a massive man. Like he is a mini Aaron Donald. He is a mini like pass rush specialist.
Yeah.
And if anything is good like that,
Vita Vea eats up 2 blocks.
That's also going to bring up his. It's also going to bring like if the ceiling outcome happens, it's because he's helping their defensive line be a dominant one, a la some of the other great teams in the league. Another prop that you have. It's almost an auto play. And you discussed it with, there's a lot of questions at quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. Mike Evans, Sean, how many years has Mike Evans been in the National Football League?
10.
This is going to be his 10th.
Okay. Wow.
Going to be his 10th.
Feels so
year.
old.
2014. Again, remember, he got Johnny Football drafted in the first round. That's how good he was at Texas A&M. How many times in that 9-year career has he failed to go over 1,000 yards receiving?
It's every year, isn't it?
He's never failed to go. He's never failed to hit 1,000 yards. Never. I understand you could argue that some of his averages have come down a little bit, but he's still an alpha dog out there.
Yes.
His yards per target last year were still up around 9. And he, even though it was a down year,
I'm betting a money line. He's still. I'm getting jacked up.
Well, all right. So
that's the problem with these team previews. I fall in love with these guys.
I think Godwin's a good player, but for you to dangle 925 yards from Mike Evans is just absurd. So, fire me up. Give me Mike Evans over 925.5. Give me Mike Evans over 6.5 touchdowns. He had 6 last year in a horrible year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I do think that the one area that people are objectively missing with this team is the fact that they have these Godwin and Evans are very good receivers. And then you add in all the tight ends they have. Russell Gage is still on this team. I mean, I know we're sounding like boomers here, but I'm on the under, but if things work out,
that's what I'm saying. I think their ceiling case is underpriced. All right, Ryan, we got to get ready. We're going to be back later on tonight, 8:30 Pacific, for more NFL team previews, breaking down your Houston Texans. As always, thanks guys for tuning in. Spread the word. This is a perfect time to get your fellow DGens involved in the sports gambling podcast movement. Going to war with corporate gambling content. Again, help us out and help yourself out. Score exclusive perks, free contests, ton of cool stuff. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon to get going there and smash that subscribe button.
I was gonna say something about if you're a Patreon and you're out in Vegas, maybe I'll enjoy a cocktail with you.
Oh, right.
No one else is gonna.
That is a bonus perk if you run into Kramer.
Oh no, that smoothie. Yeah,
smoothie. Okay.
Oh yeah, you want
free in-person smoothie.
Actually, that's really intimate. I'll do a drink.
All right.
Thank you for participating in the Sports Gambling Podcast.
For the Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean, second the money green, and he's Ryan.
2 down, 2 unders for me.
Kramer, let it